Yo, 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 guys, what is up? And welcome back to another episode of the Warriors Invitational. It's your boy Gotham with my boys Matt and Chuck. Gentlemen, welcome back. Back on the mic. It's been a minute. A lot of stuff been going down in Dub Nation. A lot of wins. Not a lot of wins, a lot of losses, a lot of close wins or close losses. But gentlemen, welcome back. We're here. It's a new era, it feels like, coming off on a Warriors win. Finally, we made a rule, guys, that we weren't going to pod until the Warriors broke this losing streak, and so here we are. After the day after the Rockets win, Kuminga masterclass, Wiggins masterclass. Before we get into it, boys, how we doing, Matt? Chuck, talk to me.
Whew, man, dude, the swing of the last like 48 hours where it's like the losing streak, Steph's out, Draymond's out. It's like who knows when they're going to be healthy. Prognosis looks good, but still, you don't want to get your stars injured during a major losing streak. But shout out to the Rockets, man. Like we always find a way to have them on the schedule when we need it most. And 15 in a row
Didn't even
is
realize that was the thing
so,
until yeah, so that's crazy.
so insane. Like I think that probably stretches back to like, the
Pre-COVID, the
the
last time
COVID
they won was
season when like
Marquise
Does
Chris
it
was
go back to the
away.
Christmas game? Yeah, it might.
I
It,
gotta go look it up to be sure, but I
I
think it
think
does
the
go all
date
the way
was
back to
February
when
20th, February 20th, 2020. So before Rudy Gobert touched all those mics,
oh
the
my
world was a
God.
different place.
And then Draymond had to have his Christmas revenge game where he just beat their brakes off like
Awesome.
single-handedly. No, man, we're doing good. We're chilling. How about you? How you doing, Matt?
Good, man.
If you
That was a
guys are
great win
watching
last
this
night.
too on Spotify, Matt's just got the best beard I think we've
Oh,
ever seen in the history of this podcast out of any of us, and it's very impressive. So if you're not watching this episode, I highly recommend to watch this video because Matt's
The,
got some
the,
serious lettuce on his face.
that's insane. The camera adds a lot of darkness and fill. It's not as good as it looks, but I appreciate it, guys. Yeah, well, I'm gonna go now. That was great. Thank you, guys. No, I'm just kidding. So, yeah, just great win, man. I'm feeling good. I think the low of the five losses in a row has left now, which is nice. With that being said, they're in a great position to go on a five-game losing streak once again. So we'll see what happens. But overall, vibes are high. You couldn't ask for more from the Warriors' wings yesterday, specifically. Um, good win. Good win, guys. Here we go.
Here we go, man. Here we go. Let's get right into it, boys. So, just kind of starting off, it's been we obviously haven't recorded since the whole 5 game losing streak and the yesterday's game, obviously. The Warriors were 12 and 3. And everything was beautiful. It felt like championship or bust. This team, who knows, could have gone on like an insane 13-man run to win the West, but reality set in. The Warriors are now 13 and 8 and a little bit, concerning in terms of a lot of, reminders of last year's team and maybe even 2 years ago, blowing a lot of these games. You could argue that each of those 5 games, outside of maybe that Suns one, they should have won. So especially that Nuggets game, again, another just kind of selling down the stretch. So who are the 2024-25 Golden State Warriors? Is it that 12 and 3 team that we saw? Is it the 4 and 6 in their last 10? Are they better than last year's team? Is it just last year's team with a couple of better bench pieces? Talk to me, Matt. You posed this question to us, and I think it's a good one. Who are these Warriors in your eyes right now?
They're better than last year's team. I think they're still probably a 5 to 10 seed, depending on how things go, is kind of where I'm at. We've watched, especially not last night, obviously, but just the Steph reliance is just still so present. It's so obviously present when he's out there that either no one can or no one wants to take advantage of what he's creating. And we're seeing all the classic Steph kind of screenshots pop up in real time again. Three, four guys thrown at him, make anybody else beat us. And during that 5 game losing streak, that it worked. Right, they couldn't score in crunch time. If Steph's not going supernova to close a game, they're probably not going to win. Granted, again, there's all kinds of fun stuff to talk about with regards to last night's game and Kuminga and even like Wiggins taking advantage. And also just one more time, we've done it a lot this year. Shout out Wiggs. He's having a great season. But yeah, I think they're closer to last year's team than they are the 12 and 3 team that started the year. but I think they're probably 5, 6 wins better than last year's team. With that being said,
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think what we're really seeing over this stretch, besides, the health of the main guys affecting things, is the Melton loss was huge. Like he just really brought so much of that rotation together because I think it's direct. We were eventually going to get a Buddy Heald slump. Like he's been a streaky player his entire career. We were getting good Buddy early in the year. We were bound to get bad Buddy eventually. Um, and I don't think it's any coincidence that that correlated with Melton being out because he's such a stabilizing presence as a playmaker. He's a guy who can do a little bit on the ball, but the defense is what really stands out because when you get to run out those bench units where it's Melton and Kyle Anderson and Kevon Looney, it really just like has such defensive organization that allows guys like Buddy and Jonathan Kuminga to kind of fly around and try to gamble and make plays. And now with Melton out, GP2 is still a good stabilizing force on defense, but you see what it does offensively. Where now it's like, oh God, like who on this bench is threatening to score if Buddy is cold, which he has been. But man, after last night, like seeing what Kuminga did, where Houston is no slouch defensively, and they've got so many guys who can create problems for someone like Kuminga, and he's just working through all his switches, getting to the right matchups, going downhill, got to the line a ton. Um, so there's reason for optimism there. Like you kind of hope that last night is one of those confidence building games for the Wings. We've seen Wiggins be confident all year, and I think that's the kind of sign you really look for, where it's like he's been good in his role, but when other guys are out, how does he step up? And he stepped up in a major way, but there's a big question mark for Jonathan because you just didn't know how he was going to respond to being like the go-to option, and he responded about as well as he could have. So that was extremely encouraging. And I still think I follow on like, yeah, this team is better than last year. This is a team that should be in the race for home court, in like a home court first round series if things break right. But there's a lot of questions still to be answered about this team. And I think one of the big ones too is Pods. Like we saw him last night, he was looking huge, especially on the glass. I think he had a career high in rebounding, looked good defensively, but Gautam, I want to throw it to you. Like what are you seeing out of Pods this year? What kind of feels like where does it feel like we're headed with him right now?
Yeah, I mean, my pod's t thoughts kind of tie into what I think this team is. And Matt, I think it's interesting you said that they're, 5 or 6 wins better than last year. So that puts them at 50 wins. And, that's obviously a great moniker for, a good team in the NBA, especially in this West. Going into the season and even the first, 15 games, I thought that 50 games was kind of a gimme. I don't know if they get there right now without, making some sort of move. And a lot of that lands on Pods, and not, being the number two guy or whatever. I think Pods specifically, the Warriors need a backup point guard, and I think that's pretty clear. And I don't think Pods is the guy to be the one to run that second unit. I think he's had a couple good games, especially recently since I mean, not really. Yesterday was really good, but I think just his lack of being an offensive threat, man. Like, he's got that mid range and he's doing all right when he kind of penetrates the defense a little bit, but he's not a consistent offensive threat. We're seeing him just bad decision making too. I think, that down the stretch, he kind of cost us that Denver game, especially with the momentum. He jacks up a three when he had Wiggins on the block, and then fouls MPJ. I know he missed a free throw, but those are the kind of momentum killers that you really can't have from the guy who's supposed to stabilize the second unit, especially when your only other ball handler is Steph Curry. So last night with Steph out, I thought Paz did a great job, but just I think he had 11 or 12 rebounds. So he does everything well in terms of like the hustle stuff, being, charging, drawing those charges. But I just don't see it as Paz being a legit backup point guard if this team wants to make a move and legitimately be a contender. So, and I think a lot of this is going to ride on, how does that second unit look? Who is going to come in off the bench to stabilize that offense? And, Pods, it is a second year. I think the expectations, everybody talking about him being an all-star in the offseason, being untouchable. I don't see it. I really don't see the ceiling that everybody else does. Maybe I'm wrong. But I do think Potts is a very good player. I think he's a solid role player for this team. He definitely fits in a lot of lineups. Defensively, he's a hustler. He's a guy that can crash the board. So definitely somebody that fits, but not the guy we need with the amount of, creation that we need from a guy that's going to come in and run the second unit. So I definitely think that when you're looking at this roster, especially the youth movement as a whole. I think it's unfair to just put it on Pods. Moody's been struggling from the field, from the three, and that's everybody talking about Moses needing more opportunities. We're with you there, but when he has had those outside of the Denver game, it's been kind of a struggle for Moses. I think Jonathan Kuminga and Andrew Wiggins, showing up last night was huge, especially with Steph and Draymond out. Just like you said, Chuck, just a good confidence builder. I think that the Warriors have a legit like five-man unit now. Hopefully, we can see it when Steph comes back. But Steph, Wiggs, JK, Draymond, and Looney. I think those are your best five guys. TJD has been a disappointment this year. Zero rebounds last night, and he just looks soft. Just a lot of offensive rebounds are given away when he's out there. So a little disappointed with the young guys outside of JK, but even JK, like one good game. Obviously, we need this more consistently, but that's been the calling card, man. It's year four. We need like Jordan Poole for all his turnovers and everything like that. If Steph was out, you knew JP could come in and give you 25 to 30 a night, and you could kind of count on that. I can't count on Kuminga having this type of night. I'm not saying he's going to have a career night every night, but you need him to be a consistent, 25 to guide night if you want him to be that legit number two with Wiggins out there as well. So more to see from the young guys. Definitely, I think yesterday was a good step in the right direction, especially just closing out a game against a good team. You haven't been able to do that, and you've got a lot of good teams coming up. And so I think the Warriors are right there in the mix. But until they really make a move to consolidate and really fill in the gaps in this lineup, Chuck, I'm with you. I think the Melton loss was huge. And I think it's something that they're gonna have to not only use their salary to get, something back, but to plug in those gaps. But they're right there. I'm with you. I think they're in that, four to play-in spot, kind of standings race. So it's gonna be interesting. I think that they are a better team. I definitely think this defense is legit. We saw it last night, especially. They were making life tough on Houston, and I think that's something that can carry over. But they've got the pieces. They're right there. I do think they're a move and a half away from really consolidating this roster to put themselves into that contention in a pretty wide open West so far.
Charlie, I like that and Gautam, you pointed it out just now. The Melton loss is so fucking big because the Warriors don't have two-way players, and they don't
Yeah.
like saying it. They've got Wiggins, and that's, to be frank, kind of it right now. And Melton was that, and I like, Chuck, you put it best I've heard it so far. Just the fact that their defense has still been really good. They're top six in defense still, I think, but it's the fact that their offense has fallen off a fucking cliff since he left because they're not. We know what GP is at this point, right? We know what he is and what he's not. Um, Gotham, I think the TLDR version of that, of what you said just now, is the youth movement it's not the hottest right now. It's crazy that none of these guys at this point have solidified themselves as must keeps. And like you said, with two guys in year four, two guys who had great rookie seasons having to be like Frank regressed. And I don't know if you guys recall, but like a month or two ago, I think I said if Pods has the same season he had last year, that'd be a win because he was good last year. And again, like it's not, I'm always gonna remind people like, hey, being good while not being on the scouting report is a lot easier than the opposite of that, right? Odds on the scouting report now, right? People know how to play him. So yeah, I'm kind of on the same page. I think it's just the Warriors are going to go through this, and the fans are going to go through this a lot, where we just don't know what to do with these young guys. Because I'm not so much a Pods skeptic as you got them. I would just say like it's just one of those things. If you can't make a shot, you can't be on the floor when games matter. And he does so many things well that he does find ways to get out there, but when push comes to shove, you got to start hitting. Like being a guard who's 6'1", not a crazy good athlete, who can grab 12 boards and drop 8 dimes, but he can't hit an open jumper. Is kind of scared to shoot open jumpers. It's just not going to fly when the season gets late.
My biggest thing
Um,
with pods is the decision making. You know, like there's been the Nuggets game obviously was one, but even yesterday in the win, like Kuminga was cool. Kuminga and Wiggins were kind of cooking, and Pods. I think he got to the free throw line. It was a good drive, hit the free throws. But then there was two possessions in a row where it was kind of just Pods hero ball, and he airballed one, and I think he clanked another jumper. And Steve Kerr, the camera kind of panned to him. He was looking up. I don't know. It's speculation here, but it was right after those two pods possessions, and Houston kind of came back. I think they cut it to three, and then obviously Kuminga and Wiggins kind of close it out from there. But again, like that's where I'm seeing my biggest issue with pods is like it's it's not that he's not a good player, and it's not that he can't fit with this team, but last year he had a great rookie season. He also had Chris Paul there, like with him right there, so he didn't have to worry about running the offense. He didn't have to worry about, he could focus on doing the stuff that he excelled at, which was being that kind of plug and play guy. He's kind of a connector, like Steve Kerr likes to say. So, yeah, I'm with you, Matt. I think just being on the scouting report and being that like he's the backup point guard right now, and I just don't think he has the decision making prowess to be
See,
successful.
that's right. I don't, the decision making stuff, like I'm not over. It's just kind of like Clay last year. When Clay fucked up, it was loud. Like he wasn't, I don't think he was as detrimental as like a lot made him out to be. And I was kind of a Clay hater last year, to be clear. And um, I think this team is still set up to thrive, not because he's gone, but without him. But when Pods fucks up, it's loud. Like the big,
Yeah.
loud fuck
Yes.
up.
Yeah.
It's a bad time. It's a poorly
It's bad
timed
timing. It's
turnover.
timing.
It's a
And
bad
like,
shot, and it's crucial moments. So it's like he might have had a good game. That happened, like you said, in Houston, right? And even in Denver, he
yeah, he
looks
had a
like
good game in Denver, but it's the
just the
timing
moments were
was
bad,
they
right?
lost.
So I'm gonna spin this to you, Chuck. I mean, is the youth movement closer to a Jesus? That was a fucking salad, wasn't it? Is the youth movement closer to a failure or a success at this point? And where are you at?
So I think the problem is that going into this year, I think they were hoping that they could at least have a couple guys that they thought were like out and out dependable on a nightly basis. Um, I still think there's a lot of that from Moses. I think what a lot of people have like, the thing that pisses me off about the way people talk about Moody is like 90% of what goes into playing time is practice habits and what they see on a day-to-day basis. So, yeah, like it's a little frustrating when you see Moses go out and give good minutes and then he's just kind of like not really prioritized in the rotation. And it's like, well, there's something that we as fans are not seeing that they are probably seeing. Um, so yeah, like he looks consistent on a game to game basis, but there might be something that tells them we don't know if we can trust this guy to play 20, 25, 30 minutes. And TJD, I think, has probably been the most consistent of the four young guys. But I mean, the guy's still smoking a bunch of layups and missing opportunities on the defensive end to be consistent. I think he's been good as a rim protector, but you'd like to see a little more night to night consistency as a rebounder, as a play finisher. So I don't think it's a failure. I just think that they're coming up a little short of expectations because they wanted to run this team deep and figure out where can everyone be consistent. And I think the pods thing, it's becoming pretty clear that he's in his head offensively, and he's pressing and he's trying to find that shot. Like we saw it against the Denver game, he looked really good because Jokic, he's going to be in a drop, so Pods is just like, well, I'm going to get to my mid range and I'm going to get good looks there, and that looked really good. And then he had that one stretch where he's just like, bad foul, takes a three he didn't have to take. He did one of my least favorite guard things was like he pulled Jokic out on a switch and he didn't even drive. He went for the pull up three. And I'm just like, man, like you get the big out on the perimeter, you got to drive and start teams rotating. You can't just chuck when you're shooting like 20% from three on the season. Like we all know he's a better shooter than that, but that's just not the stuff you can be doing right now. So I still think there's reason to believe that these young guys can figure it out because they've all had positives. Like we've seen Kuminga really thrive in the mid range. He's gotten downhill and gotten to the line a lot. Pods has been great defensively throughout this whole season. Moody has still been taking his shots and making some good plays on defense. TJD is still pretty stable presence, even if there are some inconsistencies you'd like to iron out. So I think the good thing is that all the young guys have showed flashes of what they need to be for this team. And the question is, can they find a way to piece it all together where it's like, okay, instead of having four somewhat question marks, we have like one or two of these guys that we feel are really dependable. And then, as you get down later in the season, it's like, can we throw Kuminga out and see if he's got the juice right now? And if he doesn't, then we can just shorten the bench and limit his playing time and play other guys who we feel more consistent about, just to use him as an example. But if we're getting late into the season, it's like, well, all four of them, you just don't really know what you're going to get on a night to night basis. That's when it starts to become more of a problem.
Which is kind of closer to where we are now than I think the opposite end of the spectrum. Would you agree?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think it's right now it's just, they're at a position where it's like if they're trying to run 12 deep on a night to night basis and four of those guys, it's kind of up in the air what you're going to get. That makes it really tough to piece together a consistent rotation, especially with Melton out. Like now you're shorter on options. Um, and I think that's really crucial when we get into the trade conversations because I've really come around on the idea of let's try to capture that early season feeling, which is why I think Schroeder's been my favorite target. Um, because if the idea is, okay, we think this team needed a guy like Melton, they needed defensive intensity, they needed some ball handling capabilities, they needed a good veteran in there who has some athleticism. Why not just try to bring in the closest facsimile? You can use Melton's contract to go get Schrader. I mean, he's an expiring 31-year-old bench guard. He's not going to break the bank from a trade perspective. So that
He's
I
got
think
two
is
years left.
he's got 2 years left.
I'm not positive, and I'm often wrong. So I would trust yourself, but
I will do
checking right now.
the checking on that to see what we're looking like for Dennis. Because I mean, if he's got he is expiring. Um, yeah, like expiring $13 million 31-year-old guard. I don't think they're gonna have to pay up too much besides some second round picks and maybe like a Guy Santos type. But no, I think that's what this team needs is they just need to bring in that presence that can return them to that early season feeling and just see how things shake out from there. But I'm curious how you guys feel on this question of like, can they survive their way through the season without making a move?
The whole way?
Hmm?
The answer to that question is no. I mean, if they want, again, we've watched the Warriors play like how fast and how long can we stay at 500 every single season for the last like since 22, right? And since actually 22 was the exception, right? 21 was like that, 23 was like that, last year was like that. Um, no, they need to make a trade. And I truly do think sooner rather than later. I'm like totally on the Schroeder train. I would also love it for the sake of hearing Chuck say Schrader all year instead of Schroeder. That'd be just thrilling for me. It's my favorite like Chuck
Dude,
consistency
it
since
like
we started doing the pod.
I that's one of those where I know that it's Schroeder, but my brain always wants to say Schrader because of Hank from Breaking Bad. So
You said both just now, which is the coolest part. Like you started with the Schroeder, and then I think your brain was like, "This is fucking ridiculous."
Stupid
You stay true to
mistake.
yourself and keep going.
yeah, I
Um,
gotta have myself a Schrader brow and watch watch Dennis cook for the Warriors.
no, but truly though, it's like that's crazy. But you gotta um, it's a two-way guy, and we see he's not gonna do to every team what he did to the Warriors 2 weeks ago or last week, whatever it was. But he puts pressure on the rim, and he's a competitor and he's good. He's a really good guard in the league. He's not a top 20 guard. He's not a top 25 guard, but like this is a league full of fucking good guards, so it's not the end of the world, right? This is a guy as well. That's your fifth guy. Gotham. Like you're talking about Looney as well. I think it's like the guy you trust, the fifth guy you trust. But in an actual like closing a death lineup is dead. We shouldn't use that term anymore. But if we're talking about a good closing group, like I would love to have him next to Steph and Wiggins and Kuminga and Draymond out there. And that's an attack dog lineup. I'm all in. Um, but I think it's got to be sooner rather than later. And getting a guy like that does just make those games where you don't have Steph all the more palatable too, because it's just another real guard. Gotham, like your description, I think of the Warriors not having ball handlers is so real, right? And having a guy like, yeah, I trust Pods but as a ball handler more than I think you do, Gotham, and probably try to like, we're probably aligned in that for the most part. But Schroeder being a real guy who can like get his own and take care of the ball and defend when Steph's out and with Steph, it's just like what you want out of that second guard spot. I'm again, I'm always going to be hesitant to believe they're trading for a star. I will keep saying that. Gotham, I know you're real high in the Vucevic move. Um, I would also be thrilled to like Miles Turner. They just need to stretch big, and the whole. I think we're all thinking the same thing. It's like get Kuminga on the court
Yeah.
with Draymond, and without Draymond being at the five, and getting a guy like one of those two is kind of your biggest ticket to doing that. And guess what? They can do fucking both those things. They can get Schroeder and Vucevic.
Yeah.
That's a thing they can do tomorrow without giving up a whole lot. Um, but Gotham, go off, man. Tell me about the Vucevic love and what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you there. I just think, yeah, I don't think they can survive this. Like for the Warriors, honestly, like the last whatever 3 years has been like I think getting through the 82 game season is the harder part than kind of putting together a roster for 16 games. Like you or 16 wins. Like yes, you're gonna go up against tougher teams, but even in that 22-23 season against the Lakers when they kind of the wheels kind of just fell off, they just didn't have another guy. And they had to get through that season and I think just taking that toll off. And so a guy like Vucevic to me, Matt, you kind of said it like you get Kuminga on the floor. He's a cheap guy to get. The Bulls are asking for a couple second round picks and expiring salary. Melton and I think it's a GP2 and like two picks, two second round picks get it done. Whatever other combinations of that there are, but they have expendable guys on the roster. They're playing 13 right now, so I think a move where you can consolidate the rotation and also get value back is definitely there for me. I love what Vucevic brings. I think everybody's biggest issue I think is like the defense and is he going to be able to is he going to get played off the court? I've seen Draymond elevate defenses and guys that aren't necessarily the best defenders to be a very solid defensive team, and I think they have solid wing depth and wing defensive guys that adding an anchor like Vucevic. It's just going to be another big body down there in the middle. You have Looney still as a backup if you need to, lean into a more defensive lineup. And the guy can stretch the floor. I mean, you're seeing TJD on some of these handoffs at the top of the key, and just imagining a guy that can actually be a threat to hit that if nobody's playing up. It's just we haven't seen that from this team and or from this roster, forever, honestly. Like yeah, can't remember
It's Kevin Durant, man.
since KD and shit. I mean, I'm not saying Vucevic is KD, but the impact that he can have is going to be
I will say our guy's shooting like 47% or something stupid from three this year.
it's
I don't know what
it's
it is, but it's
man,
something
like
absurd.
you
So
get a guy
Insane.
that can give you like I think he had like 39 the other night, and like I'm not saying he's going to do that on a nightly basis, but just another guy that can give you consistently 20 to 25. You add that in with Wiggins and Kuminga and more space for those guys. It just seems like one of those moves that I don't know why you wouldn't do it. In terms of just your risk reward, I do like Schroeder a lot too. I think that solves a lot of the issues. From a ball handler standpoint, a little older, but obviously Melton with the injuries. So hopefully Schroeder holds up. But another guy that's torched the Warriors in the past and can come in and can run that second unit, but it can also play like you said, Matt, down the stretch with Steph and Draymond and Wiggins and Kuminga. So yeah, I mean, I think those two guys are very attainable. And it's not like you said, I don't expect them to go break the bank for the star. I don't even know like what star guys out there that you could legit get without like tanking the
give
depth.
me Brandon Ingram just so I can
Man, I
watch
don't
and
know.
enjoy
I
Chuck hate
don't.
watching him for 3 months, man.
I mean, if the price is right, I know he's got that he wants an extension too, and I don't know if I want to pay Brandon Ingram long term, but maybe. I mean, if you just something's got to give. Like they've got to make a move. I think we've said this for 3 seasons now. We've seen how the last two have ended, and it's not necessarily that the team didn't have the pieces to maybe make a run in the playoffs, but they just couldn't get there. And for right now, the focus has to be avoiding the play and get. Can you get like you said, Chuck, like get a home court playoff series? And the West is so young still and so open that you'll take your chances with Steph and a couple guys that can, help him on the way over, some of these teams that haven't gone through the grind. We know what it takes to be successful in the playoffs. We're seeing you're at the point where teams like the Thunder, the Mavs, the T-Wolves, they've started to get a little bit of that playoff experience. So now they're going to be elevating into that, time to win a championship, window. So you still have like about a year this year and maybe next year before these guys start to really cement themselves as that top tier in the West. And so the time's now to go and plug the holes in this roster. The thing's doable, and I don't know if you can survive another season of finishing 44 and 38 and being a seventh, eighth seed and trying to claw your way in. Just too many games on Steph and Draymond, and so to make their lives as easy as possible. Getting more guys that can let you play the way you want to play without having to destroy the depth that you have, which I think is definitely a strength for this team. So yeah, they got to make a move. I think December 15th is when they're available to trade Melton. So it's about a week, 10 days from now, 9 days from now. So I definitely expect them not to hold out to the deadline. If they do, I think that's pushing it a little too much. But
To the
yeah,
flag.
yeah. If they don't make a move before Christmas, I don't know if I'd be shocked, but I would be like, damn, they gotta get a move on this before January for sure. So, but a lot
I
of tough games coming up, so they kind of have to
yeah,
survive.
I think too on this, like we've seen, it's really unbelievable the timing where they have John Kaminga goes off, and then the next day Shams drops the
Trying
like,
to
oh,
trade for a
Warriors are
star.
looking for a star. I'm like, wow, Joe Lacob, you are so subtle and clever. But I think on the star trade front, like I think I've been consistent over and over again. Like the big star trades, they only happen in the off season. Like that's any team that has any like sense of what the hell they're doing is going to wait until the offseason to make the big star moves. And I think the Warriors are smart enough to know maybe we make a Vucevic type deal. Maybe they even go try to get a Cam Johnson type. Um, but the big moves are going to have to wait until the offseason, not only because teams won't want to do it at this deadline, but I think next year we're going to see the cap is going to hit the Celtics like a freight train. And like realistically, I mean, everyone else is competing for second right now. Cavs, it's cute, but like we all know who the title favorites are. Uh,
2015 Hawks vibes, man.
yeah, no, exactly. Where it's like, oh, like this is
60
adorable. And then
wins and see
here
ya.
comes LeBron to like stuff you in a locker. Like that's what the Celtics feel like right now. Um, and we're gonna see it this offseason. Like I think the Celtics are gonna have to start eroding some of their talent because things are just gonna get way too expensive. And other teams are gonna feel like now this is our chance to really load up and get competitive again. So you're gonna see a lot of the teams that I think have been hesitant to sell on their stars are gonna start selling. It's gonna be a real like
Yeah, Aaron Fox.
I mean, maybe, like there's going to be a lot of
That's
teams
the
that are going
guy.
to take a hard
That's the
look at
one guy
him.
I would break the bank for. Curry Brand, baby. Let's do it.
Yeah, like yeah, shout out Curry Brand. Also quick tangent, shout out to what's his name? Quincy
Quincy
Olivari.
Olivari. Hey,
Yeah,
backup point guard, man. I'll take it. The guy was cooking us in summer league or
signing
whatever.
with Curry Brand, it's dope as hell. But yeah, I think you're going to see a lot of teams like there are going to be a lot of teams like the Warriors who are going to think, okay, now we have a chance to capitalize on this window since the big bad wolf is no longer in the Celtics, or at least diminished enough to where people feel like they have a chance. And then you're going to see a lot of other teams go, hey, we don't have it. Like, we should cash in right now and get these star trades done. So I think that's kind of how the Warriors are moving right now. They're thinking, let's maybe shore some things up at the deadline, see what we got with this group. And then go into the off season, try to cook, get another star, really prepare the runway for these last few seasons. Um, but that's just kind of my 2 cents on it. Is like they're in wait and see mode for when the real stars come available.
Which, to your point earlier, is like a great reason to target the guys you've been talking about. Like if we're talking about Schroeder, like you said, Chuck, second rounders. You know what I mean? I just want to share this with you guys. Okay, money wise, it works. 4 for 2. Okay, it's Melton. Make sure I got this right, man. Some comment. It's got to be Melton, GP, um, Buddy, or Kyle, and one of Brandon, Pajemski, or Moody. And there's plenty of ways to do it, but it would get you Vucevic and Schroeder. So weird question, I guess. I want to pose it to you guys. Who you getting rid of first out of Moody and Pajemski, and who you getting rid of first out of I hate saying getting rid of. I'm sorry, guys. You're humans. Who are you moving on from out of Buddy and Slow-Mo?
I might have to go with Buddy and Moody and Pajemski's tough because I feel like they do different things. But if you're getting Schroeder, I would have to go with Pods. And this is bias aside, but Matt, I think you said it in our one of you guys said it in our group chat, but I just want to keep guys that I've seen play in the playoffs, and that's such a good way to put it. And Slow-Mo is one of those guys. We've seen him with the Grizzlies last year with the T-Wolves. The guy just he just feels like a good fit, and especially when you get to the postseason, a guy that you can throw out there with a lot of different lineups. Buddy, I mean, when he's hot, he's great. This team does need shooting, but I think if you get a guy like Vucevic back, Schroeder back, you get guys that can shoot. And so they're not necessarily the snipers that Buddy is, but hey, he hasn't really been a sniper when it's going bad. So definitely down to move off of Buddy. Pods and Moody. I think Moody's still like you again, a guy that Chuck, you kind of said it, like fits in, does a lot of the right things. If he gets hot, it really does add another element. Pods, I just don't see it offensively enough to keep it over Moody, who can still grow it and is kind of a two-way wing. So one of those commodities that you want to keep. But yeah, I like that trade. I'd pull the trigger in a heartbeat.
Yeah, I think while I do think that Kyle Anderson is the better player and the more consistent one on a night-to-night basis, I think the only way that you even remotely can like make a deep playoff run is if you have players who are like extremely high variance, like Buddy. So like Kyle is a great stabilizing presence, but I think you need a couple guys where it's like, hey, Buddy might just get fucking hotter than hell for like 1 month and carry you through a playoff series.
Fair.
He could just get scorched. And like Anderson is great for the stability he brings. He's a great playmaker. He's still a defender. But yeah, Buddy's one of those guys that I think you need for a team like this, where it's like if we want to get to where we want to go, we're gonna have to beat teams that are better than us, top to bottom. And we need a guy who's just like you just liquid fire ball coming off his hands for a playoff series. So that's where I kind of stand on that. And um Moody versus Pods, like as much as I love Moses, I think we've seen the limitations be clear as day, where he's got some defensive matchups he's great against, he's got some he struggles against, and especially quicker guys, it becomes a little tougher. And Pods has defensive limitations too, but the offensive upside, like we've seen him, yeah, the decision making's been rough recently, but we've seen great decision making stretches. We've seen great shooting stretches. Um, I think he's got just a lot more upside on the offensive end, and the defense is pretty comparable. So he's the kind of guy that you need to bank on long term. But yeah, I mean, when you're in the position that the Warriors in right now, variability is key. It can't just be like, oh, we've got solid, predictable guys top to bottom, and then it's Steph, please save us. That's a formula that maybe wins you a first round series, but if you're trying to win multiple series, you need guys like Buddy and Pods around. Oh,
I want
there.
that soundbite so bad, man. If you want to, if you want to make a deep playoff run, you need guys like Buddy and Pods.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, devoid of context. That's the kind of clip that could have the entirety of Warriors Twitter
it's
beating my ass.
Yeah, man.
it's yeah. Well, Chuck, you gotta. I encourage you to self-sabotage and clip that one, please. That's awesome.
I should, yeah, just throw myself to the wolves on that
So
one.
here are my general thoughts on the state of things. The Warriors trade speculation. Yeah, I go back and forth with this, guys. I kind of feel for a number. I think Pods is going to be a really good player. Like I just I don't know when. I don't know to what extent. I don't know what type of player still. Like I'm not sure. He's really unique. Moody, it's just odd. Like there's he feels reliable, but like when he's out there, I think we kind of just kind of over index how much he actually does out there. You know what I mean? I think a lot he has some moments where like, oh my God, he's hitting his open threes, right? And he's just like you said, he's has some defensive moments, but we also have seen the slowness, we've seen the bad decision making. The fouling is still a thing. I don't know if anyone's noting that, but he still is like not careful when he's out there, it
Oh, we
seems.
noticed. He complains after every single one. We noticed it.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. So and I also think again, if we're talking about long-term moves, and let's say you do make moves for guys like Schroeder and Vucevic, I think other teams this summer want Pods more than they want Moody. And if that's on your mind as well, I think it's worth taking into account. Additionally, Moody makes more money. This is the Warriors are going to run into this issue, and fans don't. I don't know if I keep saying fans as if I'm not one. To be clear, like a lot of people may not realize this. Um, the Warriors are going to have a hard time like filling out their roster if they make a trade like this because they're at 14 guys right now. I want to say they need to be at least 14, and if they go over a certain number, they'll have like less than $1 million to add to roster spots basically. So if Moody is that guy, you're actually sending out more salary than you're bringing in. Um, so yeah, I think I'd leave Moody. I probably would rather keep Slow-mo than Buddy for the reasons I've shared before. I just trust the guy. But there is some offensive upside. I agree with you, Chuck. You might need that in the playoffs. But with between Schroeder and Vucevic, you hope that you can kind of replace some of that. Um, who knows? Maybe Pods discovers his Sam Ferris self and starts putting him up again. Um, but it's close. I'm not going to be devastated either way. And also, it's insanely surprising how reluctant Steve has been to play slow-mo, given that he seems like a player built in a Steve Kerr basketball lab. So with that being said, I think Steve has kind of made his favorites known. That's where I'm at.
Love it. Love it. Before we get out of here, guys, Warriors, we're going to Vegas. Are we beating the Rockets for the 16th time to stamp that Vegas ticket?
Dude, I think like we've seen it again. Like the Rockets so desperately needed to win last night just to like break the feeling. But now, now going into this game, it's like, I mean, they'll probably have Steph and Draymond back, and like, there's just literally nothing they have for us right now. Like,
Yeah, I
it's
mean,
really,
as with
I,
with this Warriors team, it wouldn't shock me that they lost the one that, to advance in the Emirates Cup or whatever, the IST. But yeah, after last night, I don't know if they might just be just a little bro type of ownage right now, which you get Steph and Draymond back, that's going to be even more fun and it's going to be a hype game on the road. I don't know. We thrive in Houston in that arena, so it's gonna be a fun one next week. But we'll see. Hopefully, it'll be fun to get the Warriors in Vegas, get some high intensity games for some of these guys. See how they look under some pressure.
yeah, I think it'd be cool. Win for Gee, win for Pat Spencer, win
Yeah,
for
what
all
is
the
it?
guys
50K for
who,
those guys? That's shit, lots of some good dough, man. San Francisco's not cheap, so let's get them some extra cash for rent.
yeah, get those boys their bag. Go win it.
Love it. Love it. Before we get out of here, boys, as always, anything else coming up? Anything to shout out? Chuck, Matt?
Got some stuff coming out soon on all the players I've been tracking this year. The games watched counter is getting out of control, so I gotta do something with it. Um, but yeah, keep an eye out for that coming as always on my Twitter or on theswishtheory.com.
No, I got nothing. Hell yeah, Chuck. Follow Chuck, read Chuck, follow me in Gotham. Um, I got nothing else, guys. It's been a fun one.
Love it, boys. Back on
Keep
the mic.
shaping that beard up, baby.
Yeah, next time Matt's gonna have the Dumbledore beard. It's gonna be good.
I feel like
Excited
Dumbledore,
time
man.
for
I'm
that.
on Dumbledore book 6 is where I'm at right now, dude. I'm ready to go. All right.
I love it. All right. Well, shout out you guys, man. Keep following. We're gonna keep pumping these out. It's always a fun time, but a fun part of the Warriors season coming up. So tune in. We'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.